The Bad Games is a very simple game show that I created here in Ponytown, and I've been doing on my channel for, I think, about 2 years now. And the premise is very simple. You gather a few players to the party island, which is right here, this studio, if you will, and they compete in up to 5 challenges, which usually involve unsuspecting players on the main island. The winner can then choose to take the banana for its potassium and its awesomeness, or simply take a knife and stab all of the losers. The mini-games, the challenges that the players will have to face are all determined randomly by this wheel here, and it's a whole process. So today I think it might be a fun idea to kind of share the process for the game and kind of go a little bit behind the scenes on the Bad Games. Starting with, of course, the actual games themselves. There is a huge list here. This is my master document here that shows every single Bad Game and all kinds of different ideas and stuff like that. The things that are crossed off are stuff that I've pretty much removed permanently from the wheel. I just didn't want to completely erase it in case I ever come up with the idea again and then be like, oh, wait a minute, I did come up with that idea before, and it just ends up back on the wheel again or something. It's also good to have those just in case or something. Maybe I'll do something with them at some point. But anyway, there is over 60 on here. I'm not going to explain every single game because, as I said, there's over 60 on here. So if I went and explained every single game, we could be here for 30 minutes just doing that. Even if it took 30 seconds, it would still be 30 minutes of explaining. So what I'm going to do here is basically just kind of slowly scroll through these. And then once I get to one I kind of want to talk a little bit about, I will talk a little bit about it, because there's some on here that we've never actually done, or some on here that I've never even added to the wheel because I'm still working on it and I couldn't ever come up with a good way to do it. But there's a lot on here. They're numbered. The number kind of got out of order because some games got removed, such as the slow copycat at the beginning and stuff like that. But right here is about where we can talk about one. It's called Rapid RP. It was number 36. We haven't ever actually done this because I've never actually been able to fix this game to where I can explain it super simply and, in under like 30 seconds or whatever. And it's a little bit too complicated. The simple premise is that each person gets a spell ready, and then when all players are ready, they say it at the same time. And if a player survives, they get 30 seconds to cast a different spell. Based on the element of the spell, they either win or lose. And so you could say something like, I'm going to shoot lightning at you, and then, oh, maybe that's fire, or maybe that's light or something, or maybe that's even nature, and that's an element or whatever. That basically the host would determine what element it is based on what they say, and fire beats, or water beats fire, fire beats grass, light beats dark, earth beats air, poison beats nature, nature beats death, air beats water, death beats life and nature for some reason. So that is kind of the cycle of it, and it's a whole thing, and I don't know if I'm ever going to actually fix this and ever do it in the games, but it is nice to have on here just in case I ever do come back to it. But yeah, I think that's pretty much the only one that was kind of like removed without being removed. There's also bug catch down here. This one we can't do currently because bugs just won't spawn on the party. Well, I guess we could, because the party island we can set to summer or whatever. But it's a whole thing. Basically, you just choose a different spot on the party island, and everyone places down equal sections. And every time a butterfly, a bat, a firefly, or any other sprites pass over it, they receive a point. And when the timer ends, whoever has the most points is the winner. This one is still, I feel like it needs a little bit of testing or something to actually do properly, because I do feel like there's going to be a case where basically no one gets any points, and that's going to be very annoying and sad. So we may never come back to bug catch, but I want to do something with that at some point. We could do something with like fireflies or something, and that could be fun, but still. Moving on, we have Wait For It, which we've done before. Boo is a new one. We've never done it, but it has been on the wheel since like October, or like right around before October, and it's a simple premise of where you have to scare strangers by yelling at them, and the first one to get a scared reaction is the winner. And then we have Snow Fort, which is one that I added recently for the winter season, where you have 2 minutes to build a fort using only ice and snow items, and then the best build wins according to whatever the host thinks is thing. So some of you may or may not know, but we've actually done the Bad Games in Ashestown, and we've also done it in Rec Room as well. So here's some Ashestown Bad Games. Some of these we didn't get to do because, we only did Ashestown once. Maybe I should do another special where we go back to Ashestown, but here is some of those. Let's just scroll through these a little bit slowly here so you guys can pause whenever you want to read them. There's only about 11 in this, so not too much. And here's some for Rec Room. Again, I don't think we ever actually managed to do all of these because we only did Rec Room once, and it could be fun to come back to Rec Room for bad games once again in the future. But as you can see, that is all of it. Here are some other random ideas which have never been properly added. Are My Eyes Pretty is one that I added to the wheel a long time ago, and it was simply a staring contest. The players would come on, and whenever I said go, we would just watch their eyes very carefully, and whatever character randomly blinks first is the loser. And it was simple as that. But at some point, before we ever even got to play this game, Ponytown changed it to where you can actually make yourself never blink. And because of that, I decided that we have to remove this from the wheel because a player could do that and it would be impossible for us to know they did that because they could just turn it on and then as soon as the game is over, turn it right back off, and we'll never know if they ever actually turned off the blinking or not. The other one, this is my space. Each player selects an area, and each time another player enters that area, they lose a point. Whoever has the most points at the end wins or something. That could be a fun one. I still haven't really ever added to the wheel. Are We at the Zoo? This one was Clarissa Seven's idea. I never added this one either, but each player has to try to find a stranger who is a wild animal you would see at the zoo. Something like a lion, a wolf, a giraffe, something like that. A character that is, that instead of a horse. And the first player to find one would win, and it could work, when a player spots one, they shut out the animal, and the host goes over to approve or disapprove if that was actually something you could find in a zoo or something. So that's the wheel, and as you could probably tell there, just that few explanations that I did share is just a long enough thing by itself. But we also have the wheel itself. So let's take a look at the wheel. And the first thing you guys will notice is there's not 60 items on the wheel. As you can see here, a lot of them are disabled. If we come over here to the right side, we have a lot of stuff that's grayed out. This stuff is stuff that's not displayed on the wheel. I can toggle this whenever I want to. So let's say I did Gay Race in the previous episode. Say I'm gonna do an episode right after that or something, I'm gonna remove Gay Race from the wheel because I don't want to have that 2 episodes in a row. Or if I've done it 2 episodes in a row, I'll definitely remove it because I don't want to have the same game three episodes in a row, because then that can get kind of repetitive and stuff like that. So it's a bit of a challenge and a bit of a lot of thinking in terms of what should I remove from the wheel for this episode, what should I add back to the wheel for this episode, and so on and so on. If I did toggle all these back on, the wheel would be huge and all of the print on here would be tiny. So that's another reason why I remove things from the wheel temporarily, so that it can kind of display better. Because if I add all these, as you can see, just by adding those 3 right there, the wheel gets a little bit tinier. Like all the little options get a little bit tinier and it becomes a little bit harder to read. So that's another reason why I like to do that. For those curious, I use wheelofnames.com, and you can customize this however you want to. There's a lot of cool things you can do with this, and it's super fun. Even if you wanted to, I've never done this for the bad games, but if you wanted to, you can actually change the odds for certain things. So if we come over here, and we can actually change the probability of that coming up on the wheel, which is fun if you ever wanted to do that. It's very noticeable if you do this though, because it actually just genuinely increases on the wheel. As you can see now, it's just bigger. You can tell if someone's done that before and we've never done that, or well, we probably have on like the first episode or like the second episode or something. But yeah, there you go. And another thing too is like whenever we play the game, I spin the wheel. Obviously the wheel, it spins and then it lands on, let's just see what it lands on here just for example. It lands on I Like Food, which is a whole game. It's right here, so that's perfect. We can close that. What I like to do after we land on something is I'll usually just go right back to Ponytown. I'll explain the game. We'll do the game, obviously, and then I'll come back to the wheel for the second round or the third round or whatever round it is, and then I will find I Like Food and actually remove it from the wheel. That way we don't end up rolling on it twice in the same episode, because if we've rolled it on the same episode twice, then we have to skip that one. Sometimes I forget to add it, and if it lands on it when I forgot to remove it, then I will just redo it and we'll cut it out of the video or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much how it works on the wheel. There's also results here, so you can see what all the results were that you got recently and stuff like that, which can also be helpful, because if we accidentally forget to remove one and I forget what we did earlier, I can go on here and we can remove it or whatever. So that's pretty much the general gist of it. After the episode's over, I will sometimes leave the like for example, I Like Food. Sometimes I'll remove it from the wheel and I'll leave it off, and then at the end of the episode I'll add them back, or I'll just leave them off. So that's a whole thing by itself. So that's pretty much the general gist of how things work. While all this is going on, there can be any number of like issues that come up while we're playing. Obviously, some players might have to go AFK for a bit or something like that, and there's a few things that we can do in that situation. If we're in the middle of the challenge and it's a free-for-all type challenge, sort of like, let's see, where was there a Battle Royale or something like that? If Battle Royale, since it's a free-for-all game, if someone goes AFK in the middle of that game, there's nothing we can do. That person is just gonna lose that game most likely. If they have to leave right before we start the game, then we can just pause everything and just kind of wait for them to come back, and when they come back, we'll just play the game from there, and all kinds of things like that. There's a lot of different stuff that we can do in those situations. If someone has questions, you know, after we've started or before we started or at any point in the game, all they have to do is just ask a question, and I will just answer it immediately right then and there, unless for whatever reason I can't answer it right then and there. So yeah, we land on the game, we come back here, I explain the game, and then if anyone has any questions, they can ask them before we get started, and then we get started. Then we do it. Again, if they have any questions while we're playing, they can ask them, and I can do it. And then, of course, we have, you know, like our co-host that's sometimes here, Clarissa, or whoever it may be on any given day. It's usually Clarissa. They can be around, and if we have something where everyone needs to split off and go into different places on the party island, which does happen sometimes, such, for example, like the, for example, It Was Them. It's a game where you have to find a specific kind of person based on the description. Obviously, everyone's going to split off and they're going to go in different places. The co-host will follow someone, I will follow someone, and sometimes if there's a spectator or something like that, you know, joined just to watch, I'll have them follow the other person. And so what ends up happening is, you know, maybe the co-host and the person the co-host is following finds the person they need to find, so they'll be like, hey, they found them. They can either take a screenshot, sometimes they're recording, sometimes they don't, and then obviously I come over there, verify that that's true, and then we just come back to the studio, to right here, and then boom, that person won. They found the person. You guys lost. You want to get stabbed? I don't know. But it's best 3 out of 5. Another thing to keep note of here is, since it is best 3 out of 5, we'll do, you know, 3 games, and then someone will get eliminated permanently. So let's say player 1 here wins the first game, then this person here wins the second game, and then the player on this carpet wins the third game. That means we've done 3 games, and the person on the third carpet has not won a single challenge, which means they get eliminated permanently for the rest of the game, and the other 2 compete for either 1 or 2 more challenges. This way we can keep it under or around 5 games total, 5 challenges total. Because if we didn't do that, and then this person won the 4th game, then we'll end up in a 5th game potentially, and potentially a 6th game, and then potentially like a 7th game, and so on. And it can get crazy if we don't eliminate someone, so we have to eliminate someone. Sometimes in special cases, this person wins the first challenge, this person wins the second challenge, and then this person wins the third challenge. It's been 3 games. Everyone has 1 win, which means we can't eliminate anyone yet, but what we'll do is we'll usually go into a sudden death type match where whoever does the worst in the 4th challenge will get eliminated or something like that. We usually come up with a solution to that pretty quickly, but that's the general gist of that. Now we can move on to the final thing, which is the editing process. This is for the last episode that we recorded. It's the one where we had, you know, Asterion and Marvel and all of them. I'm not going to go super in depth to the editing process to this, because the video's gone on long enough anyway, and this part might not be as interesting as some of the other stuff. But it's pretty simple for those curious of what the song is for the intro. It's Biz Baz Studio. It's free on YouTube. You can go to youtubestudio.com and go to their free music library or whatever, and download a bunch of different songs on there that are all free to use, copyright free, all that jazz. And I use Sneaky Business Biz Baz Studio. And it's perfect for this because it kind of, I don't know, it kind of has a little bit of a goofy vibe to it and everything. And usually I'll do like a zoom in intro for the logo, and then I'll have it either fade or just pop right into the corner. And this stretches over the entire video. As you can see, it stretches over the entire thing all the way to the end. And it's just sitting in the corner, and I usually lower the opacity to about 42 to 50%. That way it's not kind of in the way. Sometimes information gets put up in the top left corner. For example, if we have to keep track of scores or something. In the case of 42, which is a game mode where everyone has to get a math problem solved super quickly. I'll usually put their math problems in the top left or in the bottom left or something like that. And if I do put it in the top left, I'll either move the logo temporary, or I will move the logo underneath the the text. So for example, that would look something a bit like this if I just took this and then moved it right here. And so now that text is going to overlay on top of it. Otherwise, let me undo it. Otherwise, it's underneath it and it's harder to look at. Over here, you're probably curious what the Subway sandwich is. This I like to use sometimes for if I need to blur something out, I'll use random images. I think it's funnier than using like pixelation or whatever like that. In this case, I didn't want the audience to know what the sandwich ingredients were, because what I like to do for when I'm editing or whatever else like that is I like to give the people watching the video a chance to kind of play along, so to speak. And so by blurring out what the answer is, they can kind of play along to, River and Rocky here, and they can kind of figure out what the sandwich ingredients are. And if they wanted to, they could yell at their phone or their computer or whatever they're watching on, and they can just yell at it and be like, no, it's obviously the cucumber. The cucumber is obviously the answer, or whatever it ends up being. That is also what I did for the banana box at the beginning of this video as well, because we played banana box in this one at the very beginning. Obviously, I explained the rules, and I basically, instead of like blurring something out, I basically just cut out who I gave the banana to and who I whispered to. And so now the audience has no idea who has the banana, and so they can kind of play along and try to figure out which of these three players is lying about having the banana or not having the banana. And then they can be like, well, I'm gonna switch with marble or whatever. That's what they can say out loud. And then at the end of the thing, they can figure out who actually had it and if they won or not. But obviously, they're not actually playing. These little sections like this, where it actually explains the game, this took a long time to get, but I do have all of them here. Bad games. They're all short clips that explain the different rules and stuff like that. This is This is a fun thing so that I can kind of do the editing process a lot quicker. We used to do it differently, where I would manually put in all of the rules and explanations and like different, basically almost animations, the way the text comes up and the board zooms in and everything like that. But now I can just cut straight to one of these clips right here. Like, gimme gimme, this is how you play gimme gimme or whatever. Hot items, this is how it works. It's super simple, all that kind of jazz. And I have one for basically every single game. I think there's a couple that I haven't done because they've been added since I done this. I got a huge bit of help from Clarissa7 and also River when I needed to do this. Me and Clarissa were doing it at first, and then we ran into River, so I was like, oh, River, you want to help us do these last ones? And we ended up doing about half or so with River and the rest with Clarissa. I think one or two of these I've done by myself, which was Get Dunked On. I did this by myself, as you can see, because there's just plushies and stuff. The gamer table as well, I did that by myself because they were newer and I needed to add them super quickly because I was in a rush and I needed to get them done because the video needed to go out like the day after or something. So super simple stuff like that. So if I need to, for example, if we're gonna play Gay Race, then I can just grab Gay Race right here and just drag it into place, and then make sure it comes up at the right place. Oh, we're playing that game. Oh my God, pretend that was Gay Race, and then it comes up and there it is, and then it goes away, and I can do transitions with it if I want to or whatever else. There's lots of cuts that we have to do in the editing as well, because there is instances where there's 30 seconds of like basically no talking or anything going on, or 30 seconds of just nonsense basically. Huge things like this, like you can see in this, there's basically no audio from them. This is my audio, this is their audio. And so you can see that they're not really saying a whole lot. Obviously, I'm saying a whole lot, but if this clip matched this clip, if these both were like basically no audio levels, then I would basically most likely remove all of that. Or in some instances, I will actually dub over the clips and stuff like that, which I have done for some videos before. Sometimes for intros, sometimes for outros. There's been instances before where I didn't know it happened, but at some point in the video, everything got a little bit fuzzy for some reason on the audio, so I'll just dub over it and then put it in there, and it can sometimes be very noticeable and sometimes not very noticeable. But that's pretty much the general gist of how this works. I don't think there's anything else to really say about the editing process. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions about the editing process, or if you need help on editing a video or anything like that. One thing, well, I guess one final thing is that when we do say our final goodbyes, there is like, in this instance, I put an ad here too, but I usually put about 10 to 10 to 9 seconds here at the end that are usually blank or black or something like this. That way I can put my end cards there and stuff like that, because I don't like putting the end screen cards over top of the video when I'm still talking. I feel like it looks bad and it makes it harder to tell what's actually happening or if the video is actually over, and all that kind of jazz. So usually there's a bit of nothing at the end, the last like 10 seconds, whatever. Sometimes there'll be music there. In this instance, I just didn't for some reason. But yeah, that's the general gist of all of this. If you guys want to actually participate in the bad games, or if you have ideas for challenges for the bad games, please let me know in the comments below. If you want to participate, it's super simple. All you have to do is join my Discord server and request the waiting list role. The waiting list role is a role that I ping whenever I need people for a video. So if you want to be part of the bad games or Gartic phone videos, or any kind of other video that I might need people for, then join the Discord server and ask for the waiting list role. I'll give it to you, and the next time I need people, I'll ask all of waiting list who wants to hop on for this adventure, and then we'll come on for that adventure and do our thing. So yeah, there you go. I hope this all made sense to you guys. If you have any other questions, or if there's any other kinds of videos that you guys want behind the scenes for, then let me know in the comments below. And of course, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do consider liking, subscribing, sharing, and doing all of those wonderful things like that, because when you do wonderful things like that, not only do you get access to wonderful content such as this, but you also get to become wonderful yourself, and I think we all want that. So do those wonderful things, and until next time, stay wonderful.